here we go. Okay, this is Dan Dorfman. This is a witness interview for the case of the state versus Freddy Price. For the record, could you please state your name?
Yeah, it's Captain Luke Walker, San Andreas EMS.
Great. Thank you very much, Captain Walker, for taking the time to sit down with us and give your statement. Could you please indicate, is the statement that you're about to give in any way, shape, or form done under coercion or duress?
No.
Okay. And are you under the influence of any type of narcotics or anything like that? Medication?
I am not.
Okay. Thank you. So the incident I want to talk to you about is the things that you witnessed as it relates to the events that occurred on August 31. There are two primary crime scenes that we're interested in, Captain Walker. One being the crime scene down around the Pillbox Hill ammunition store. Why don't we start there? And I'd like for you to pick up. I understand there was a call that went over dispatch approximately 12 hours on August 31st. That call came out as a male aggravated assault using a bat. There was multiple injury alerts that it was on Elgin Avenue and Adams Apple Boulevard, followed shortly by several 911 calls requesting assistance for individuals who had been attacked and incapacitated. Could you tell me, were you the first to arrive on that scene?
Yes, I was. So I was in Medic 2 that day. I'd split up into a second unit as the call time. So
and Medic
James Clifford was just...
Medic James Clifford was in Medic 1 at the time, correct?
He was in Medic 1, yes.
And it's my
understanding. On a call...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, he was on a call somewhere along Route 68 from memory, responding to someone who had fallen off a height. So he was out at that. I was in Sandy Shores at the moment. Call came through down at...
All right. And so about what time approximately would you say that you arrived on scene? How long did it take you to get from your previous staging in Sandy Shores down to the scene?
I responded directly, so it was probably a 2 or 3 minute response. I arrived just after it was about 2200 hours on the...
All right, so was there already a police officer on scene when you arrived, or were you the first person on scene?
Negative. I believe all troopers were tied up with other calls. I arrived on scene. I saw 5 individuals laying beside a Phoenix security vehicle. I immediately, upon arriving, calling 1023, I radioed in all available.
Okay, so you were...
Respond.
So you had a mass casualty situation on your hands as soon as you rolled up on the scene. Was there
That's correct. I immediately knew that a lot more than I could...
And what types of injuries did you observe on the individuals that you saw that were needing assistance? When you arrived, you went through... I think your procedure would be to go through a triage. Is that correct?
Yes. So when I arrived on scene, immediately, due to multiple individuals being down, I tried speaking to those who were conscious to try and discern who were the most critical. There were a few that were bleeding a lot, suffering head wounds. So I was immediately referred to the first individual who had being hit across the head with a baseball bat, and
was this a male or a female?
This was a male.
Was that which one of the victims was this?
So the first
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
first victim that I attended to was Jeffrey Connors.
Okay, so Mr. Connors had an injury on the back of his head, and was bleeding.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, I was stating it was from a baseball bat, and from what I could tell, that is exactly.
Was the wound
to the head.
consistent with that you observed? Was that consistent with a baseball bat or a large blunt object?
That's correct.
Would that type of would the type of wound that you observed, would that have been possible also with a police baton, or would you say that a police baton didn't have enough surface area when you looked at the injury?
I mean, it's very likely they kind of appear similar. I do believe in suffered like injuries.
Can't get a camera angle I like.
Yeah, definitely.
There we go.
Definitely a blunt force from being a large solid object.
Okay. All right. And so that was Mr. Connors. So you attended to him first. Was he conscious or unconscious?
Yes, he was conscious, complaining about pain. He was trying to get me to assist some other individuals as that company. So he was for his peers, but they were all directing me towards him as the most critical, and he was bleeding quite a lot from that head wound. So I attended to him first. Wrapped his head wound up after irrigating, secured him to a seat collar, and stretcher loaded him in the.
Okay. And was at this point in time where you began to wrap him up, had you seen anyone else on scene? Was there anyone else in the area when you rolled up?
Everyone who was on scene was incapacitated on the ground in one form or another.
Did you recall seeing any Securiserve vehicles on the premise?
Negative. My next patient that I picked up, though, was a Mike Lemonade who worked at Securiserve. He was the only individual.
Okay. And did he have a Securiserve uniform on that day? Logo? How was he dressed?
Yes, he was wearing the serve attire.
Black pants, kind of a black, like, tactical sweatshirt or sweater.
Black tactical vest.
Yeah. And then the Securiserve logo.
I
Okay.
believe he was the only one down from the opposing party at
Okay.
the scene.
As it relates to the police, it was 250, I think, that arrived on scene first. That would be Trooper White.
Yep, so Trooper Derek White, 250, arrived first. I believe it was a time I was treating. So he arrived pretty quickly after I radioed in and stuff.
Okay, so he was able to start securing the scene. Trooper White was.
Yep.
Okay. And then as Trooper White, did you ever hear any conversation at the time that Trooper White came by for anyone that he was talking to that was conscious?
No, my focus was completely on down and
Understandable.
as soon as possible.
Yeah. Okay, and so did you transport Mr. Connors by himself, or did you also transport another patient with him?
No, so as I stated, the next patient I assessed as the next most critical was Mike Lemonade, who had also suffered a head injury. So I again treated him similarly to Mr. Connors and got him loaded up into the ambulance. And shortly after that, as I only have base with 2 stretchers in the back of my to secure the next patient as medic 1 still hadn't arrived at the scene.
All right. Did you perform treatment on the other patients at the time to stabilize them, make sure they were stable prior to medic 1's arrival?
Who is this guy?
Yeah, so I'd begun treating a 3rd person, which is going to be a Wayne Wesson, who was knocked around a bit. He'd suffered some injuries to the right side of his body, particularly across the...
This is the state versus Freddy Price.
So as I was treating him, medic 1 rolled on scene, started to treat the other 2 downed individuals. Then, as my ambulance was full, I had helped Mr. Wesson, after placing him in a soft sling, into the back of Trooper White's car for transportation as the other 2 medic 1.
Okay, perfect. With the individuals that were laying around and the position of their bodies, did you observe any implements like a baseball bat or a baton, like a police baton, or any other type of blunt instrument that was laying on the ground?
I believe there were some items scattered across the ground, but like I said, my focus was primarily on obviously arriving first on scene. There
Right.
were 5 individuals down.
This is
kinda
probably more of a
using every bit of my training to assess.
No, that's fine. That's fine, and that's what you should be focused on, right? I'm just trying to corroborate other testimony and other information that I've received. So I appreciate that. When did Medic 1 arrive?
He was the last to arrive on scene, so the second trooper shortly after 214, which is going to be...
That'd be Trooper
Trooper
Hotchkiss,
Hotchkiss?
right?
So she arrived and started assisting with securing the scene, and then as I was helping the 3rd individual, which is Mr. Wilson, medic 1 rolled on scene then and started securing the other patients while I took the first 2 in medic 2, which is Connors and Mr. Lemonade, up to...
Great. Now, where were the bodies of these individuals? Where were they incapacitated at, as it relates to the pillbox ammunition store?
Okay, they were all in very close proximity to each other, so they were right beside the Phoenix Corp SUV.
Is that
parked
sort of
in the midway up the parking spaces on Elgin there?
okay? So they're going to be on the Elgin side of the building, just midway up in the parking lot, and that's where all of them were laying in very close proximity. Okay. Did you return to the scene after dropping Mr. Connors and Mr. Lemonade off here, or did you bring them into the emergency room and assist? I mean, what would your procedure be at this point?
All right, so at the time, I would roll into the hospital here, and I brought Mr. Connors in out of the ambulance first, brought him into the...
We did an interview of
room,
James Clifford.
Gave my report to the doctors about the injuries he'd sustained and what had happened, and then I returned my ambulance to take Mr. Lemonade out of the stretcher, brought him inside as well, and did the same, and by this point, all the other units were seen with the other casualties.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you very much. So let's now, I want to focus in on the events that happened here at the hospital shortly thereafter. So at this point in time, this would be around 22:53. So this would have been approximately 35 minutes after you began treating the first individual on the primary crime scene down at Pillbox Medical. I'm sorry, at Pillbox Ammunition. And had you witnessed a gentleman come into the lobby that was maybe wearing SecuraServe? Or were you in the kind of in the back area?
Yeah, so I was out back actually after clearing everything and getting everyone sound medically and seeing the doctors, troopers were starting their questioning process. I'd actually as much as I frustrated at myself for the timing on this, but I'd actually walked up to the bathroom up by the stairwell up to the helipad for a few minutes, and as I walked downstairs, I heard Mr. Price yelling something about Mike Lemonade as I walked downstairs. So
Okay.
I'd missed the start of that.
And do you recall what you said? You heard him say something about Mike Lemonade. Can you recall what it what was it related to? If you can't remember his exact words, do you recall what it was related to?
Not exactly, because it caught me so off guard. I had no idea what was happening. So I kind of walked downstairs. I heard his voice yelling something. I'm pretty sure all I heard was something about Mike, and saw Trooper White up against the wall with his weapon in his hands, and I knew something was going down. So I pretty much cleared out of there and got out of the reception area as soon as possible.
Let's take a quick walk in the back if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
So I want to go ahead and this occurred back here in the emergency room outpatient area, right? Okay. And where was when you moved? Where were you headed to? Were you headed back here?
All right. So I was coming from here.
Okay.
Out here using the bathroom area.
Right.
Fortunately, and as I'm walking down through here, casually, just thinking everything's gonna be as it was when I left.
Right.
I head around this corner. I hear Mr. Price yelling. I see Trooper White up against this wall right here, with his gun ready. And at that point, I knew something was very wrong. So I immediately got out of the way, and I straight through these doors and went out the front.
Now, could you go over to the wall, please, and demonstrate the posture that you saw Mr. Trooper White in?
Yep, he was right up against the wall like this, keeping cover. I believe Trooper Hotchkiss may have been on the other side, but once I saw that there was a bad situation, I just went out of the way just so they wouldn't have to worry about me.
Great, thank you very much. Did you see Mr. Price at all at this time? When you glanced Mr. Trooper White over here, did you see Mr. Price? Or did you just hear him?
I think I glanced someone in dark color around the maybe around the corner here. So I believe he may. I mean, I can't confirm because I was in such a rush to get out of the way. I've seen someone around this area here.
Okay, so he may have been standing here, watching or looking out this way.
Yeah, I did see a darkly dressed figure. I believe
right.
it could have been Mr. Lemonade.
Now, what about the individuals? So my understanding is Mr. Connors and Miss Schuyler or Sheeler was they were being tended to in the outpatient area, and then in here we had Mr. Tony Corleone, Mr. Wesson. I believe Mr. Wesson was in the far bunk over on the left side, And was Mike Lemonade here on the right-hand side bunk?
The way I recall it is, last I saw before I went upstairs was Mr. Weston was by the window there.
Okay.
Mr. Connors was in this bed here.
Oh, okay.
Here, I believe they were being questioned by the troopers when I saw them. And then I know Mr. Corleone was standing by the door here, cuffs, and Wendy Schultz.
Okay, so at the time that you went to the restroom, Wendy was in the other room. Mr. Connors was here. Mr. Corleone was being questioned over on the other side. Hey, how you doing there, Mr. Clifford?
How you guys doing tonight?
Doing all right. And this would have been Mike Lemonade right here. Okay, perfect. And then Mr. Weston, you said was he was treated. Was he standing and or sitting in a chair over here by the window?
Yeah, so he was on his feet. He was the least injured. He just suffered
He suffered an arm injury, right?
right side.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
He was standing and stable.
Okay. So after you
Just been done with.
after you ran out and went into the lobby area, did you observe anything else then at that point? Tell me what happened next.
So when I entered the lobby, I saw everybody minus Mr. Lemonade, but behind the front counter, including Medic Clifford over there. That would have been Mr. Corleone, Wendy, then there was Jeffrey Connors, and some were all behind the counter.
Okay. All right.
I immediately went over and joined.
Okay. Were you given any specific instructions by the SASP at that time?
Shortly after that, Trooper Hotchkiss came out and requested that we get them out of here, completely out of the building, so that they could secure it. So both Clifford and I took Medic 1 and Medic 2, and we transported all 5, I believe it's going to be 4 individuals down Mission Row.
Okay, perfect, excellent. Did you hear at any time any gunshots here in the from the hospital?
No, I don't believe there were any shots at that time. Still in a hole.
All right. Once you left, were you in here at the time that Trooper Boscarelli came in?
So after dropping off the mission row, I'd ordered Clifford to wait and tend to anyone if anyone still required any treatment off-site, and then I took Medic 2 back and I staged just a case that was needed. And it was at this time that Boscarelli had come on duty and was joining them, so I witnessed him drive up the front of Pillbox, park his cruiser, and go inside shortly before he was.
Okay. And then you were on scene here then to treat the other injuries when called out. There would have been gunfire at that point. You may not have heard that. I don't know if you.
And on the radio, I heard them calling out shots fired.
Okay.
Trooper Hotchkiss, I believe, reported shots fired at her, taking some shrapnel from the wall she was hiding behind.
Okay. And when you arrived on the scene, once they told you that it was clear, what did you observe?
So as soon as the panic alarm went off, I got close to the entrance of the hospital, pulled on in, and told told all the units that I was standing by.
Glad you
ready
like it,
for,
Pesky.
medical as soon as it's clear, and I was immediately advised by White over the radio that it was clear for me. I'm in, and I then found Trooper Boscarelli in the hallway between the waiting room,
All right.
lying on the ground with a chest wound.
All right. And this was he wearing a vest that day?
Shirt
Well, how about this? What,
in the chest area.
as far as the wound themselves, was that consistent with a shotgun? So it looked like a scattered from a shotgun at close range, or was it a rifle, or could you tell the type of wound?
It was most definitely a shotgun with the scatter pellets.
Okay, all right. All right, and this was over here at the hallway, okay? You're talking about the one that leads over towards the waiting room area, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so like somewhere right in this vicinity right here. Maybe a little further like this, yeah?
About where you're standing now.
All right, perfect. What about, what other victims did you, or individuals did you see at that time as well?
So at this time, I was in here. Trooper White was standing over him. I immediately came in and I started treating I believe Sergeant Boscarelli right here on the.
Okay.
As soon as the doctors were cleared to come in and treat him, we just brought
Okay.
into surgery as soon as we could.
All right. And after treating Sergeant Boscarelli, was there anyone else that was injured at the time?
I was advised to take care of Mr. Price, who had been shot in the chest also, I believe.
And where was he
A
positioned?
shotgun. So when I was brought to him, he was sitting in the back of a patrol car out the front. Out and took him in and got him checked, but it was mainly just some bruising in the chest area as he was wearing a vest.
All right, so he wasn't.
But he was conscious and talking.
Okay, he was conscious and talking. He just had the wind knocked out of him from the round in the chest.
Yeah, he seemed pretty unfazed actually.
All right. Well. Okay. And was Mr. Lemonade visible at all to you?
Yeah. So when I arrived on scene and treated Sergeant Boscarelli, Mike Lemonade was in that corner there to the side of the left of the in cuffs by Trooper Hotchkiss. So after getting Boscarelli secured with he stated he was fine. Checked in with Hotchkiss. Scratches from the shrapnel that had scraped her.
Okay. And was Mr. Lemonade? What was he injured at all? Did you observe? Did you treat any wounds on him?
I did not. He refused any treatment. He stated he was fine. He did look like he had a just in blood. Stated he was fine. He was very timid and he seemed very traumatized.
All right. Was he transported by the police as well for further questioning, or?
I believe he Mr. Price, and I know his seemed injured, but he was
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that sticks out to you about that day that that you think is relevant or important in this particular case?
not. I believe that was the extent of it.
All right, great. That's I mean, that gives me the perspective of sort of what happened here in the hospital. And yeah, it's sorry you guys had to go through that.
Been kicking myself I wasn't here when it all started going down.
Yeah, I hear you. Let me go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. Thank you very much, Captain, for your statement. I appreciate that.
Not a problem. Happy to help.